Everyone knows their pet would stand beside them in their time of need, but what if they went above and beyond? History is full of decorated war animals who risked life and limb by sticking by the sides of the soldiers who needed them most. These animal war heroes have all been distinguished for going beyond the call of duty and saving human lives, solving impossible challenges, and working their way into the hearts of the soldiers they served with. They performed their jobs with the utmost bravery and conviction, and have been honored with numerous titles and commendations. These are the most decorated war animals that saved the day, animals that exemplified their countries and will be remembered for their honorable actions. Sergeant Stubby was an American dog that served as the mascot for the 102nd Infantry 26th Yankee Division in the US Army in World War I. In 1917, he was smuggled overseas to France by his owner, Private G. Robert Conroy, where he won over a commanding officer with his impressive ability to salute. He was injured in a gas attack, but managed to make a full recovery. He would later use his knowledge of deadly gases to warn the sleeping troop of an attack before the alarms could sound, saving countless lives. Stubby would also track down injured troops in the trenches, listening for English words and barking to alert nearby medics. His most astounding achievement was the capture of a German spy, whom he caught making a map of the Allied trenches. He managed to subdue the soldier with bites to the legs until troops showed up. After the incident, he was given the rank of sergeant, the first animal in the United States to receive an official rank. He retired after an injury from a grenade blast put him in the hospital. By the end of his career, Sergeant Stubby had served in 17 battles, won numerous commendations, and met with 3 different presidents. His body is kept in the collection of the National Museum of American History. Sergeant Reckless started her life as a racehorse in Korea under the name Ahchim-hae, a name that translates to Flame of the Morning. She was purchased by Lieutenant Eric Pedersen, who recruited her into the Marine Corps under the Recoilless Rifle Platoon Anti-Tank Company, 5th Marine Regiment. Her duty was to carry hefty weapons and ammunition, but she would soon be known for her exuberant personality. She loved attention and was known to enjoy some beers with her fellow soldiers. Reckless had the freedom to wander camp and had a reputation for eating anything offered to her, but her favorite meal may well have been scrambled eggs and Coca-Cola. Sergeant Reckless performed bravely in the Korean War and did far more than an ordinary beast of burden. She helped lay down communication lines and was extensively trained for frontline combat situations. Eventually, she was promoted to Staff Sergeant and would retire with full military honors. G.I. Joe was an American carrier pigeon responsible for saving the lives of an estimated 1,000 men during World War II. During an attempt to take back the German-occupied town of Colvivicia, Italy, American bombers were prepping to unleash a payload to support British troops on the ground. However, an unexpected German retreat meant the British could take the village ahead of schedule. The problem was no one could get a message to the Americans about to bomb the whole town. As a last-ditch effort, Joe was sent back to the base with a message to stop the bombing. Beyond anyone's predictions, Joe was able to fly the 20 miles back to base in just 20 minutes. He arrived just before the planes were scheduled to take off, earning him the Dicking Medal for animal gallantry, the only American animal to receive this British commendation. Jackie the Baboon served his country in the trenches of World War I after being shipped out with the 3rd South African Infantry Regiment. He was originally the pet of Private Albert Marr, a young South African man who joined the military and asked if he could bring Jackie with him. Jackie partook in drills like any other soldier and was so respected for his good behavior he was made the official mascot of the unit. He was given a proper uniform, trained to salute and rest at ease, and was even used as a late-night watchman. His acute hearing allowed him to warn the regiment of nearby enemy movement. When Private Marr took a bullet to the shoulder, Jackie stayed by his side and even licked the wound in an attempt at some similar first aid. His military service would come to an end when he was wounded by shrapnel during an enemy bombing run while trying to build a small stone wall for protection. One of his legs would be amputated, but Jackie and Private Marr would both survive the war. Back home, the duo worked with the Red Cross to help raise money for injured troops. While it may seem like keeping a live bear as a pet isn't the best idea in the world, that thought didn't stop a group of Polish soldiers who purchased a baby bear in a market in Iran. WOJTEK was raised by the soldiers and was socialized to humans at an early age. He was adopted into the 22nd Artillery Supply Company of the Polish 2nd Corps, where he was on the official roster. He was known for his love of beer and eating unlit cigarettes, and his presence was a massive morale booster for the weary soldiers. It wasn't all games for WOJTEK, as he served in several battles in Italy, carrying shells and supplies for his regiment. After the war, WOJTEK would spend the remainder of his life at the Edinburgh Zoo, where he would be regularly visited by the men who raised and served with him. Sergeant Bill was a Canadian goat that served as a member of the 5th Canadian Battalion and was shipped out overseas to fight in World War I. A family in Saskatchewan gifted the goat to the battalion after they traveled through town on their way to a camp in Quebec. The men smuggled Bill on the SS Lapland and was a nuisance to some of the officers while stationed in France. He was put under military arrest twice, once for eating some important documents and again for charging a superior officer. He regained favor amongst the brass after successfully capturing a Prussian soldier at the Second Battle of Ypres and was eventually granted the official rank of sergeant. His war record was superb as he managed to save 3 human lives and survive countless injuries, including shrapnel wounds and trench foot. He would receive numerous medals and commendations for his actions and would eventually retire back in Saskatchewan with the family he came from. Today, his body is memorialized in the Broadview Historical Museum, still wearing his dress blues. This feline served on the British naval vessel HMS Amethyst during the Chinese Civil War. He was awarded the Dicking Medal for his instrumental role in a 3-month siege that occurred in the Yangtze River in 1949. Originally found as a stray in Hong Kong, Simon was smuggled aboard the Amethyst and quickly bonded with the ship's captain. He immediately set to work on killing the rat infestation that had been plaguing the ship. Unfortunately, Simon was badly wounded when the Amethyst was bombarded by communist Chinese troops. After receiving medical treatment for his wounds, he would begin to recover. Eventually, he killed a giant rat nicknamed Mao Zedong, earning him a promotion as an able seaman. For defending the crew's food supply from the most deadly of beasts and allowing the crewmen to survive a full 3 months under siege, Simon became the first and only cat to receive the Dicking Medal. He would pass away shortly after returning to shore in England, and Time magazine would write a tribute in his honor. In 1914, a Canadian military veterinarian by the name of Harry Colburn was headed to the battlefields of World War I. Before he left port, he bought a bear cub for a mere $20 and named her Winnipeg after the Canadian city. He then smuggled Winnie on a boat to France, and she immediately became popular with the troops in camp. She boosted morale and was said to be a proficient navigator. But the dancers of trench warfare meant Colborne had to make a tough decision. He took her to the London Zoo, where she remained a staple exhibit for 20 years. Children were allowed in Winnie's enclosure and were free to pet and even ride her, as one zookeeper described Winnie as the only bear they ever trusted entirely. It was here Winnie met author Alan Alexander Milne and his son Christopher Robin. The boy fell in love with the bear and inspired his father to write a story about Winnie and Christopher Robin. NEMO A543 was a sentry dog during the Vietnam War that helped to root out an infiltration of Vietnamese soldiers in 1966. On December 4th, the Tan Son Nhut Air Base suffered a devastating attack. Some of the raiders avoided discovery, but Nemo was able to sniff out a lurking combatant. Although both he and his handler were injured in the exchange, they managed to kill the attacking soldier. Nemo ended up losing an eye in the scuffle, but he is given credit for saving the life of his handler. Nemo retired from the service shortly after his ordeal and spent the remainder of his life at the Department of Defense Dog Center in Texas.